What's up, everybody? Welcome. It is Tuesday night. Monday night, of course, we're supposed to be on, but thanks to the Florida storms that happen the way they happen, sometimes you lose connectivity, and so you just reschedule it for another day. But no big deal because that's what we do. We just come up with plan B that goes along with plan A, and then we put all the plans together, and here we are. So live, of course, from the LG Direct Sales Solutions Studios here in Tampa, Florida, I'm Angel. Welcome to Coaching Sessions, Volume 5, and all the way from the tropical islands of the Bahamas, Jamaicas, whichever way you want to say it. It is the lovely Genia and Jesse, life coaches of Rain Dance, here with me tonight. And of course, we talked about last week a couple things about truth and lies, which kind of led into some judgment, which ironically, as we talk about judgment, things happened last night in this part of the woods, a little bit south, and so someone is getting judged, but we won't bring that up because that's a whole different kind of judgment. But Jesse, first of all, once again, thank you for joining me here on Coaching Sessions.
It is our pleasure.
Our pleasure to be here on this beautiful Tuesday night. We just embraced the uncertainty of technology like we do, and we, pivot and we move, and, we just call it Monday 2.0. Right, whatever. But we're happy to be here.
That's
absolutely.
That's the way to think about it, at least to do. So we want to talk about here a little bit as far as judgment. And the funny part is, as we talk about it, of course, unfortunately, it could be either good or bad. But when people look at other people, and again, if kind of using a little bit of today's reflection, if you like a certain thing, you're judged a certain way. If you like a certain beverage, you're, judged a certain way. You may not ever smoked in your life, but maybe because Winston-Salem's had the best commercials with the cowboy, maybe that's what you liked if you were to pick up a cigarette. And it's funny how people will judge others, no matter the type of person that you are and what your own beliefs are as well. So you might have, like I tell people all the time, on Facebook, somebody might have a profile that doesn't match who they are, meaning that they may, they could be a complete clown and a goofball and everything else. But on their Facebook page, it might have like a bunch of serious content. And it might be just because they want to throw off someone's scent. They're like, you know what? They know me as a clown, but what if I make up like a real serious kind of Facebook profile? Is someone going to judge me because of my profile? Now, ironically, of course, that word is used a lot today too, meaning the word profile. And it seems like a lot of us get profiled just because of the things and the choices that we make. So is it fair to start off here with today's volume? Is it fair for us to judge others even before we even judge ourselves?
Great.
Is it fair?
Is
Good
it
question.
fair? Great question. And I love this topic of judgment because it does come up a lot in our own personal lives and with many clients that we work with, for sure. It's a huge issue. It's a huge stumbling block, judging, being judged. I don't know if you could see me from way over there in Tampa, but I wore my handy dandy fun little crystal cat ears
see that
today because I was so excited for this judgment episode, and I got the response from Jesse when I came down the stairs. He was like, "What is that on your head?" I'm like, "Oh, are you judging me?"
I was judging her.
Are you judging?
I judged her.
But me, I love my visual aids, and I think when we see things, we learn things because I think some of our watchers out there, they're probably looking at their screen like, "What has she got on her head? Like, what is going on with those ears?" Right? And some out there might judge me. They're going to come up with some ideas of what they mean, maybe great. Oh, maybe she loves cats, maybe she loves crystals. Maybe she's just a cool person. And then other people out there watching us right now might, judge me as being a little off my rocker, right? just a little bit, but who's wrong? Neither one. Who's right? Neither one. I think it all boils down to perspective. Right? Which is personal. So that's why I wore my visual aid. So we can dive into judgment when I think, why do we judge? Is it fair that we judge? Oh, that word fair, life and fair, that doesn't really
it's
go.
Kind of judging.
It's like judging. Yeah, judging being judging. But I do think judgment, whether it's fair or not, I do think it is how we operate from our belief system. And I think, like most everything, we are here, we learn judgment. It's a learned behavior that we, the impressionable sponges of children that we are, we pick it up from our caregivers, our friends, our teachers, and our TV.
Absolutely. I mean, that answers the question of, where does judgment come from? So before we even get to the point of,
is it fair?
Do we judge, and is it fair? Okay, where does it come from? I mean, we all understand that there's a distinct difference between like the judgment of physics and the judgment of others. So physics being, like Genia was pointing out.
Right. You're walking down the street at night, right? And it's dark and you have two choices, the dark, scary path to your left or the well-lit, pathway to the right. Our judgment tells us, maybe take the lighted path.
It's safer.
Right. It's safer. That's the good judgment, like you had mentioned earlier, right? And it is there to protect us. And in those circumstances, really useful.
Yeah. So we're, in talking about, which side of the street to walk on for safety, that speaks right to the core of our biological imprinting.
But where we get like in the muck a little bit is with the interpersonal judgments.
Right.
And I think that's what we're talking about tonight.
And we think that we're taught that. Now, be very specific about teaching. We didn't set out as kids or young adults or even as adults to go learn some lessons about how to judge and when to judge and who to judge. No, we actually learned because it is exactly what was happening all around us. Even as small kids, we witnessed our parents, we witnessed other family members. If you go to church or if you went, to the playground or so on and so forth, there's judging happening everywhere. So that's how we end up picking it up and learning about it without our awareness. But very specifically, what we can do is, and in answering the questions, is it fair? Now you and I might actually differ a little bit on our answer. So just straight up, Miss Genia, cat ears on.
Don't be judging my
and then
cat ears.
I'm actually kind of curious, Angel, you as well. Is it fair to judge? Just answering that question.
Is it to me? It's not. It's never been about being fair, I guess, to judge, because the problem is it's easy. Is it easy to judge? Of course. When we were younger, did we do it a lot? Yeah. Why? Because we didn't know any better. And a lot of times, depending on where you are, like if you come from a family, let's just say mom and dad weren't together, and so you come from a divided family, then someone like myself, for example, would have to listen to adults. You hear more adult conversations. And as a child, what you would hear, people saying, oh, did you hear what so-and-so did last week? I couldn't believe it. That's crazy. And the worst part is that when they go to church, which is the funniest thing to me, because everyone just jump in the car. And this is just, again, from childhood experience. They would jump in the car and be like, oh, it's Sunday. We're going to go worship the Lord, give him thanks for everything that we have and everything else. But on the way there, I'm listening to gossip, someone talking about somebody else and everything else. And then we get to the church and the same people they were just talking about, like, oh, hey, I heard last week that you weren't feeling too well. Like, that's not you were saying. Well, what? I'm just saying that's not what you were saying. So it's funny as a kid that you have to listen to that. And then you want to tell the truth because what do your parents tell you all the time? Tell the truth. So now you want to tell this person, oh, by the way, these people were talking about you. I don't know why. Did I lose you guys for some reason? But, it's funny because they'll tell you that, well, I want you to say the truth. Okay. So you tell the truth. Then they tell you, well, you're not supposed to tell everything that you know, because you're like, we weren't judging them. Let me look up that word. And then you find out what a definition is, like, so they were judging them. Now I got something on them. So then you use that as leverage because, like, if you guys want to talk about them this week in the car, I'm going to tell the truth. So it's going to cost you. So then it's almost like a payout. So it's the same exact way. As you get older, you try not to judge people because no one knows someone else's walk of life. Even though, some people like to come to work, never put on makeup, never put on good clothes or anything else like that. And it's not because they're they could be a bum. They just don't care about themselves. It's just when they see their fellow coworkers, like, I don't really have to impress them because I already got the job. And if they really want to see what I look like, then maybe in a function and we all get together afterwards or something like that, then they'll get to see the way I am. There's a lot of women I've worked with before in the past that when they originally came into the company, they may have put on just a little bit of makeup, and obviously because you want to look good to make the impression and come in. But then afterwards, I wouldn't see them again in any kind of makeup or the hair was always done, but not the same way when they looked when they first came into the company. And then you're kind of curious, like, I wonder why they look a little bit different than the first day they came in there. As you learn, it's like, oh, well, I don't like to really get kind of like makeup and everything else. I just like to come out the house natural. To me, I think that's the best look anyways, when you're natural, because everybody gets to see your beauty, whether it's inside or outside, before they get to see you on a night, like a special occasion, like a wedding, an engagement party or something else like that. And even then, it's funny because what do we do when we arrive there? Oh my God, did he not realize when he walked out of the house, what was he wearing? And so again, it comes down to the judgment, even though you're not kind of in a way not really judging, but because you're saying what that person has on there. So judgment comes in so many different forms and fashion that we really don't think about it as much until after the action. Because when you turn around and you say, like, for me, myself, I'm like, I'm not going to judge that person. But then if I say something like, I just did what I said I wasn't going to do. And it was not doing it as far as like on purpose. Like, I'm not going to, we talked about it last week. If you look horrible in a dress or a suit or shoes, like Jesse, if you and I were hanging out and we knew we were going to a great friend's house somewhere, and I thought, hey, Jesse, them sandals, don't you think 1981 in sandals back? Because, we're in 2022 here. So different things like that you can make constructive. But when you're constantly judging someone, then there's a problem, because you should be looking at yourself first to make sure all your ducks are in a row before you go out there and you decide you want to play Judgment Day. So I mean, it just comes in so many different forms that it really makes you want to think, how do I want to perceive people? And how do I want them to look at me without judging me? So, I mean, a great follow-up question.
I think you brought up some really good points, Angel. There's self-judgment, the way we judge ourselves. And we, as humans, are just horrible to ourselves with all of our self-judgments. I mean, how many times have you looked in the mirror and said, oh, God, there's another gray hair coming out. Oh man, I'm really not liking my hair. Like we're just terrible to ourselves and the judgment of others. And as you said, as we learn, it's not good to judge, as we go through life and we learn, maybe that's not a great skill. It's not like leaning towards connection. It's really disconnecting me from others.
Yeah.
It's always good to realize when we are in that moment of judging others, we're only seeing an instantaneous snapshot of their lives. Like you had said, you don't know what goes on behind the scenes. You don't know, what that person, the life that has led this person to this instantaneous moment, choice, or whatever that has made you cross paths that you're judging. And back to your other question, whether or not it's fair. Ooh, I hate that word fair. It makes me feel, I do think it's a normal way that our brains work, right? Our ego is in there. It's in our amygdalas, and it's always scanning for threats, and it's always kind of, surveying the land and making sure we're safe. So judgment is a normal part of being human. Where I think we get stuck in the muck is when we attach meaning to those judgments.
Yeah.
Right. When we create the meaning, this person is wearing crazy cat ears, so that means she, right? Or this person is looking frumpy today, or for lack of a better word, this means they are that type of person. And I think it leads to disconnection. There's no other way.
And another way of looking at what Genia just did with the meaning is, what actions are we taking? What decisions are we making? What presumptions are we creating and then reinforcing inside of our minds following a judgment? So Genia and I, oftentimes will recommend to people, look, we're all going to judge and we're going to be judged, but it's what we do with those judgments that is of most importance. And just by presenting yourself with that concept, if you can begin the awareness process of recognizing your own judgments of yourself and of others, then you present that question. Okay, well, am I going to do something with this judgment? Well, no, because it's just a thin slice.
Right.
And that thin slice doesn't mean anything. Maybe I need to find out more information.
Right. One of the best questions to ask yourself when you find yourself, judging, because you're going to do it. There's no such thing as never being judgy. It's just, you can't not judge. Is it true? Right? When that thought, the meaning that you create, is it true that, this person is that type of person because, this and that? Well, yeah, it is, because that's why I'm judging them. But do you know that it's true? No, we really don't. Right? And then you can just let it go.
The same holds true for the perception. And I think this is probably a more evil poison, so to speak. It's worrying about others judging us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I mean, I've taken days where it really ended up being just minutes and tried to become aware and write down every single time I thought, I wonder what they're thinking of me. I wonder what they thought of what I just said. I wonder what they thought of what I just did. Did anybody notice that I just did this, that? These are all judging ourselves through other people's eyes, and it's not real.
It's not. And what's funny is we all do it
all the time.
Everyone does it. You walk into the party and you're worried about other people judging you. Everybody else at that party is worried about the same exact thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's like nobody's really thinking of you. They're worried about who's judging them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's the challenge with making this type of change.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to make this type of change. And the awesome thing, Angel, is that because we're talking about judgment and it stemmed from the truth and lies conversation, we now have an opportunity to do something about this thing that just hits us all on a regular basis, that kind of perpetuates a lot of our decisions, that perpetuates a lot of our choices. Is, if we can take a look at those judgments, can we then make better decisions, make better choices, connect more, as you said?
And like we said last week in our Truth and Lies episode, it very similarly, these judgments, they are coming from beliefs and meanings we've created along the way, right, in our lives.
Right.
Sometimes they're conscious and sometimes, they're subconscious. I remember a conversation I had with my judgmental self way back in kindergarten. This one girl, and her name was Heather. She was horrible to me. She was kind of like the kindergarten bully, and she made my life miserable. And she wore patent leather shoes, right? And I'm like, what, 4 or 5? And for a long time in my life, if I would see someone wearing patent leather shoes, I would judge them. Oh my God, they're going to be a horrible person, and go the other way.
What about other people named Heather?
And I did,
Heathers?
and
Okay,
Heathers
okay.
for a very
There's
long
like
time.
a whole movie about that.
Until I saw the movie Heathers, and that sort of changed my opinion. Like, they're kind of cool, but it's insidious where these judgments come from. But until I questioned myself, right, I prevented myself from a beautiful opportunity, not only to own some really cool looking shoes, right, but to connect with people. Right? Because I had this preconceived, perception, belief, and which manifested as a judgment. Oh my God, all girls that wear patent leather shoes are just going to be horribly mean to me.
And all Heathers.
And all Heathers. And I love you, all Heathers out there listening. I love you now. I did the work. I promise.
Now, it's funny when you mention that, right? Because what's the big, and boy, okay, so this will become the naming part of the judgment session here, because you guys brought up a great point as far as using Heather, because the most popular name that we've heard in the last 2 years is what? Oh my God, Karen, right? So,
Oh, Karen, yes.
So,
I love it.
This is where you feel bad, because you may have had a friend named Karen, or a sister, family member, whomever it is, and your particular Karen, it's not like the other ones that he called so-called Karens. Because, of course, not everyone, like we see the videos out there, whether it being on Instagram, social media, whatever the case may be. And someone walks up to her and like, okay, Karen, that's not my name. Like, but you're acting like a Karen. So It's funny because we will associate that with it. So if you're watching TV somewhere and you see someone going crazy inside the store, someone, because, again, this thing is on record all the time. So when you're doing stuff, someone will walk up to you like you could just had a bad experience at a store, a restaurant, whatever the case may be. And then the person says, "Why? I just want to let you know that my experience was a good." Okay, Karen, thanks. We'll pass it on to the manager. Why do I have to be Karen? Why are you judging me? And then everything escalates from that point. It goes on from the other. So the same way you have some guys who are named Richard, and those who know that some people in short will either be Rich, and I don't know where they got Dick from, short from Rich, but you'll hear someone saying like, "Oh, you're just being a dick." I'm like, so are you talking about the male side or are you talking about the Richard side? Because I'm trying to figure out exactly which way you're going with this. And then that can escalate to something else as well. So it's funny, even names, people, because you could have people like you. I'm just saying hypothetically, if Peachy was a name, like we would hear that name all the time, and you associate yourself with like, oh, I got my best friend Peachy, like she's great. I met another girl, ironically, her name was Peachy, and she always ended up being nice. But you meet the one, maybe she's Peach, she's not Peachy, and so because she doesn't have the Y at the end of her name, it's like, oh yeah, you're like Karen Jr., you're Peach. So it's just funny to us where we hear it all the time now, and people get to judge you from that. Or even makes it worse is, again, now this poor young innocent woman or older lady or whatever the case may be goes out somewhere on a date, and it's set up, let's just say, a blind date. Now the person says, "Oh, so I'm John, nice to meet you, and you are?" "I'm Karen." Are you a Karen? So it's funny how the association, again, going with the judgments, also goes along with the names.
Yeah, really quickly, I think that's a great example because, as I was saying earlier, we don't know where we learned how to judge. But you just brought up an excellent, in the moment, recent example of how, even if you're only slightly aware of the Karen phenomena, as they're calling it on social media, you now have a judgment, even if it's only slightly negative. But I think most of us, when it comes to the concept of Karen, is probably pretty darn negative. But there's a great example. You didn't ask for it. You didn't seek it out. And now you have a lesson, also known as a judgment, ready to fly.
And just like we know, that they're in science with emotions, you can have emotional contagions, right? And now judgment so easily with social media can go viral, and it doesn't even need social media. We see it in schools, you see it in groups, right? Judgment can be viral. And you just made a good point with the name Karen, and I have a sister named Karen, and sometimes she kind of is a Karen, but true.
Like, we'll hopefully not watch this episode.
Hugs and love, but you know the truth. But yeah, that's judgment can be viral. What's the flavor of the week? This week, everybody's a Karen. Next week it could be, okay, Richard, for the guy. I think they're still trying to figure out the male counterpart. Some people have said Kyle. They're trying to come up with, keep it balanced. But it can become viral. You have a group of people, with the same belief, they will judge everyone outside of their group, right? We see it in religion. We see it in politics, not to go off the rails too much on that.
Definitely lives there. Right? Absolutely.
No, it does. And then if you use the flip side to it, right? So now we know that obviously if you go to a court of law, which is a different kind of judge, now the difference there is you still get judged. One is because you're presiding in front of a judge, which that's what he or she went to school for, obviously passed the bar, and that's the reason why they're doing it, because they worked their way up to that level. But on the flip side is, let's just say you have someone that walks into a courtroom, again, because they're just going through dire straits, and the only thing that they had presentable in their closet is a t-shirt and maybe just a pair of sneakers that just didn't look great, and maybe a pair of cutoff shorts. Now, because when they walk into the courtroom, first thing they see is like, is that the way you walk into my courtroom? And no matter what you can say, like, I'm just, right now I'm just going through a really hard time. It's not the way I normally dress. It's not the way I represent myself. But now they're going to be judged just upon their appearance, which then leads to the actual judgment they're going to have at the very end. Now, people can say that's not true, but it's very true, because if you go back, there's been plenty of specials, plenty of documentaries that have shown when you look more handsome or more beautiful than the next person in that courtroom. And as you get dressed up accordingly to that courtroom, depending on, of course, what the nature is, you can have a lesser sentence than someone else that doesn't look the role or it doesn't appear the way they're supposed to inside of a courtroom. So that's a form of judging before you actually get the judgment that you're looking for.
Well, yes. And you had mentioned a story last week that was so impactful to me, how you went for the job interview, wearing one set of clothes and they kind of dismissed you, right? And you went home, you changed, you put on your military uniform, you walked right back in there like a boss and they offered you the job. Yes, unfortunately, we are humans, we are flawed. And those things, they happen because people aren't aware of their own judgments, right? They're not aware, or they're not questioning it. They're not challenging their beliefs.
Right.
That person at your interview decided you were a type of person from the clothes that you were wearing both times, right? And one of those judgments wasn't really, advantageous for you, but the other one was. Right. It was 100% perception because you're the same guy. I had a similar story, buying a car. I won't get into it, but they prejudged me completely the wrong way. And there I was, with my cash trying to, buy a car off the lot, full cash. And they totally dismissed me because I went in on my day off with my tank top and my cut off jeans. And they kind of shoved me to the side for the people that,
got dressed up.
They got dressed up and they looked, they looked the part. They were, like rolling in the bling bling, right? They ended up not buying a car. And there I am with my cash green money driving off the lot. Like, thank you for underestimating me, right?
So the one thing we definitely know is that judgment is going to happen. That means we are going to be judged, and others are going to make decisions, and they're going to select ideas about us, and it is going to affect us, whether it's positively or negatively. And we're going to do the same thing. But what do?
Be the change. That's all we can really do is become aware of it within ourselves, because if we all become self-aware, then there are 8 billion people on the planet are self-aware of their own judgments. And that's, and then we can stop it right here. I can't control other people, right?
Right.
And I can't control their judgments, which really are opinions at the end of the day. Mm-hmm. Other people's opinions really aren't any of my business unless I choose to make them my business. And why would I? Life's tough enough. If we realize we all do it, we realize ourselves are doing it. Okay, I'm judging. I just judged that person. Name it. Call yourself out on it. Oof, I'm judging this person. Why? Oh, it's a belief because my mom said this type of person is this, or because it's a Heather and she's wearing, patent leather shoes. Name it first. Own it. Okay, I just judged that person. That's not the person I want to be. I don't like when it happens to me. I don't want to put that energy out in the world. Name it, claim it, transcend it. Go the other way. I'm not sure if my judgments are true. That wasn't really cool of me. I don't know what's going on in this person's life, and I'm just going to move on, and send them love, and move on my way. But we have to do it for ourselves.
I'd even say you could take it a little step further. You said a key phrase there. I don't know if my judgments are true. I know, because I freely and openly for myself judge absolutely everything and everybody, and I don't believe a word of it.
Right.
Because I do fully honestly recognize that when I see somebody, I'm seeing just one side, one slice of their image. If I spend some time with somebody and they say things or they do things that, don't feel right to me, or I start to judge who they are based upon those things, I try to catch myself, not 100% all the time, to remind myself that, okay, this is just a slice moment in time in their life. I don't know what happened prior to, so I don't know what's fueling their behaviors and their decisions. But if I literally make a decision about who they are right this moment, then I've lost the battle. I've lost the battle that is, well-being in this world. It's a tough one.
It is. And listen, I've done it before too. So it's not like, again, because I'm not innocent to anything else either. I've done it before where, I've seen a person like, interesting. Wonder what in the world they were thinking, whether they stepped out of the house, whether it was, I've had an interview before because a person was so nervous, they couldn't put like a coherent sentence together. And so it was like, I didn't tell them, but in my head, I'm thinking, okay, were you drinking? Did you smoke before you get here? What was the situation? I wonder if they had an argument before they left the house. So all these things were going through my head. And in about 10 minutes into the interview, I'm saying, all right, either this is going to end really bad or somehow or another, maybe this will end up coming together. At about the 15th minute in, it went from an interview to like a generic conversation. As they went into the conversation, I noticed the person became a little more relaxed. So then I figured, all right, this is just a shot in the dark, but let me ask something in an interview that we're supposed to have, but in a generic conversation. The rest of the interview went smooth because the person was uptight about interviews because they were, as he had told me, he looked over some videos and he thought, okay, you're supposed to put your hands on your knees or on your lap, not move, sit up straight, make eye contact. Everything that he had looked up was just fine. The problem was on the inside, he said he was so nervous and he was ready just to kind of like fall apart because he had stiffened up. So what he was going to do is, and you notice anytime someone has lifted a weight that's heavier than them because they're trying to push themselves, it's called flexing out and they pass out because they pushed themselves too far. So he said he felt like he was going to do the same thing. So I told him, it's funny. I'm glad you say that because in my mind, I'm thinking like, did you have an argument? Did you really want to be here? All this stuff in my head, but I didn't want to say to you because I didn't know what how you were feeling, how you were counteracting. Turned out to be one of the better employees I ever had until he decided to move out of state. But what if I would have came out and said it at the time? Now, by no means doesn't mean that I've never said it because there was another time when I worked, and this is when I was back in Philadelphia, my lovely hometown, and things weren't going right with the company. And so the president of the company, the owner, she was 2-in-1. She sat down with the project manager, myself, at the time was my manager. I was one of 2 training supervisors. And she said, what's going on here? Why can't we keep people here? And I told her the way I felt. And initially, I was really calm. But then the project manager, because she wanted her to hear what she thought she should be hearing, then it drove me nuts. And I said, listen, I'm not going to name the company to keep, the names of the innocent protected. But I said, hold on for a second. You are telling her what she wants to hear. What she truly wants to hear is what's going on with the company. Why are things going the way they're going? And at that point, I just kind of put my hands up on the table. When I stood up, I said, I'm going to tell you how this works. All right. So everybody sit back because here's about to happen. And I laid out all these things that went wrong. And if you guys remember, at the end of last week, towards the end of the show, I said that when I get pushed to a certain limit, the word go after yourself comes out. Well, in that particular meeting, and my buddy, if he's watching tonight, he can attest to it. At the end of it, I told her, so listen, so either things are going to get straightened out or I'm going to walk, either that or you can just go after yourself. And I sat back down. The project manager looked like she wanted to shrink in her chair. She was like, did you really say that? Did that really come out? And I was expecting, okay, either she's going to get rid of me or she's going to think I'm just the biggest jerk in the world. And she looked at me straight up and told me, Angel, I need to hear that because you're absolutely right. Awesome. The inside of me was like, good. The outside of me was like, I dodged that bullet. But, but it was because that's what she wanted to hear. So she could have judged me in the most negative way possible. But after that point, we had built a better relationship because she really wanted to know what was going on within the company. And then, of course, a year later, I decided to hightail it and move down here to Florida. But either way, she could have judged me a whole different way of the way she was looking at things. Now, do people in that office judge a whole lot of people? Oh, yeah, every day. As soon as you walk in the door from the time that you leave. But instead of talking to people and finding out what's going on with them, did you have a bad route? Did something happen? Did someone cross you a certain way? There was times you would see people being dropped off in the morning and you can hear the argument as they were pulling into the parking lot being dropped off. And the person leaves with screeching tires like, holy moly, like what happened there? Sometimes they want to talk about it. Sometimes they don't. But again, it all falls under judgment because like if you're coming in and you're arguing and I'm hearing this, I'm like, well, no, someone had a bad night or something else. But because, yes, the automatic judgment wheels start spinning. Now you got to just figure out what can you do to kind of de-escalate that situation so they can come into the right frame of work when they get in here. Now, I was really good when it came to that stuff. But what happened? The minute all the routes and all the buses and everything else were out of the yard, once I go back to the office, like, oh my God, I can't take this anymore. I'm going nuts. I don't understand. So I didn't find a way for my own self to de-escalate my own situation until another person walk into my office and say, hey, Mr. Angel, I need to talk to you about something. Sure, sure. And then everything else, I would just kind of let it go.
Right.
But the stress level that was picking up so bad, at that point in my life, it was like, you know what? I'm tired of dealing with people. I don't want to hear anything from anybody else, even though I wouldn't tell them directly, unless, once again, which I said even last week's show, I will forewarn you when it's getting there. Right. And once I warn you, you don't listen. Sorry, it's coming out. It's just the way I am. It's the way I operate. Plus, I'm post-military, and anybody who knows anyone that's in the military, again, you've got that certain level. But once it starts turning into from friendly to enemy fire, you can forget about it. So yeah, I mean, I've done it before. I've judged people before because, again, I don't know where they came from. I don't know what their situation was until you start learning. And then once you learn, it's like, wow, I feel like the world's biggest jerk. So yeah, we all do it. Do we do it intentionally? We hope not, but we all do it.
I love that story. And I think, again, we're talking about like interpersonal relationships. And I think it boils down to like, we're not, we don't just judge on appearances and things, but you brought up a good point. We also judge people on their behaviors. They did this thing, so that means this and that. So what happens in our minds, we judge the thing that they did, whether they gave us a side eye, or here, I'll put it this way. You're in one of your meetings, right? And one of you're wrapping up for the meeting for the night, and one of your coworker, you're saying goodnight to everyone, and you say goodnight, Bob, and Bob gives you the side eye and runs out the door, right? And you're left sitting there. All of a sudden you're judging. Why the hell did he give me a side eye? Why is he mad at me? What did I say something to piss Bob off? Oh man, he's just a jerk. I didn't like him anyway. We become judge, jury, and executioner.
Right.
And if you let yourself like live in that storyline for like a night, all of a sudden the next day, you're plotting Bob's murder, right? Because he side-eyed you, because you've come up with this story. It has something to do with you and this and that. It's right. Those stories that we tell ourselves. So it's when it's having, like, again, naming it, oh my God, is this true? Like, okay, fact is Bob side-eyed you. You have no idea why until you ask. So maybe the next day that you come in after, you spent the whole night, spinning about him, and Bob's this and Bob's that, and I never liked him anyway, and he's got weird shoes, and I don't know what he eats for lunch.
They're not patent leather.
Yeah, they're just whatever. The next day, you're so amped up after spending the whole night. You ask Bob, hey, Bob, I'm having a little trouble here. Last night when we were wrapping up on the meeting, I was saying goodnight and you didn't respond, and you sort of looked at me funny and you ran away. I need a little help understanding. Then he says, oh, Angel, gosh, I'm so sorry. I had gotten a text from my family that my dog was choking on a Lego. Right? It had nothing to do with you. Meanwhile, you spent the whole night with the movie in your head about Bob giving you the side eye that was all about you. Judgy.
But why is Bob's dog eating Legos?
Well, I don't know. Dogs do weird things.
That's
why I have cat ears on and not dog ears.
Inside of Angel's story and in your story right there, it's kind of clear. We have two options if we can be aware of them, if we can be aware of our judgment.
Right.
Dismiss them, as in the complete and utter made up stories that they are, or investigate them.
Right.
Ask.
Because when you only have your own narrative in your head, that's the narrative you're going to stick with forever. And meanwhile, you might have been friends with Bob for 20 years. And because of the story you create in your head, now you're going to fire him. Now, like, you're not friends anymore because of a false narrative. So again, it comes to name it. Oh, here I am judging again. Claim it. Like, okay, there's some other options. Is it true? Transcend it. Either dismiss, gone, or have a conversation, right? It's as
If
easy
we
as
all
that.
started doing that, yes, it would be a very weird world at first. But just imagine where we could end up.
It would be, and we can use it with what's going on once again currently down in their District of Columbia, but that'd be a different show for a whole different day.
A whole different.
Yeah,
So and then that turns me back to the stories we tell ourselves about self-judgment. You know, you brought up self-judgment earlier, and I had said we all do that, and we're probably harder on ourselves
yeah,
than the judgments that we're projecting out into the collective energy of
Right.
it.
yep.
I think that's got to go, right? And another, when we find ourselves doing that again, becoming aware of it, becoming aware of those trigger words that we use on ourselves. We should. I know when I start shoulding myself, like it's 100% judging. Oh my God, you should be taller, you should be thinner, you should be smarter, you should be doing this. When I hear the word should, it automatically tells me I'm judging myself.
It is a judgment trigger.
It is, and it's a good point too, because we do tend. It's funny because, and I believe Robert was the one that sent the message here. Good evening, guys. Miss being there, and I
Hello.
completely forgot. So, Rob, if you're listening, I completely forgot to send you the invite here to make sure you join us. But I did send you one. So if you look in your phone email there real quick, you should be able to see it before the show ends. But no, but we've done that. Like, there's some mornings we wake up, right, and we know we're with our significant other. Like, you're with Jesse, the same way I am with my producer Debbie here. And some mornings you wake up and you're like, wow, the birds are singing, the sun is coming up. We grab our coffees and we go out, whether it's the living room, whether it's outside on the deck, in the lanai, whatever, and you're feeling good for the moment. And then you tend to look at yourself like you might be walking by, or you go to the bathroom, whatever the case may be, and you look like, oh, what happened? When I went to bed yesterday, I didn't look like this. Like, what's going on here?
Oh my God, why do I look like a golem? Yeah, that's me
Right.
every day. Every day.
No, but you do that though, because you do tend, like, for me, I know for a fact, I'm extremely hard on myself only because there's things that I want a certain way to go. And if they don't go that way, I'm tough on myself, because as I'm learning new things and everything else, like starting this company from the ground floor, learning everything that I've learned now, there's still so much more that I'm getting into and more evolved. So when I try to kind of either get together with other people, make them understand exactly where the company's going and everything else. And if things don't go the way I want, it's like, what did I do? Did I say something wrong? Did I not make my point? Did I not spend enough time like just researching things that I wanted to do? And so we do. We tend to be extremely hard on ourselves. And I'm the same way. Like, and Debbie, if she was in the studio here, she would tell you, I don't like anything defeating me. I don't care if it's a light socket, if it's a simple pen that went bananas, whatever case may be. I want to make sure that I have kind of like the mentality, like, okay, I know I'm going to do this. I'm going to conquer it. We're good. Moving on to the next problem. But we do that a lot to ourselves. We tend to judge ourselves a whole lot because, again, sometimes it does come down to, like, if I look like this, what does my significant other look at me like? So want to explain what you and that ugly stick that fell from the tree hit you a couple of times in? What something's going on here. So yeah, we tend to do that. And then again, it is human nature, just like you were saying, we are humans. And so therefore, one morning or 1 week in a row, we could just be looking our best. And then, or we can go to a friend's house or a bathroom somewhere, because every mirror is not made the same. Right. So you might go out, like you guys may have gone to, let's say, a dinner one evening. And same way, Jesse, I'll use you, for example. You might end up going into the bathroom and you look like, oh, this shirt looks really good when you left the house. But now you're in the bathroom, you look at the same shirt, I'm like, huh, what in the world was I thinking? Different mirror, different look, same person. Right. So it's the moments that the way it happened. And the same way, our own self-conscious, because we always know that we want to be on top of our game all the time. But sometimes we get the best of our own selves.
We forget, in your, again, perfect example, that we are in the story that we're telling ourselves at the moment. And that story is going to change. And if that story changes because we get better sleep, or we wake up and the pillow arranged our hair in a better way, or we just have a great experience and then we walk by that mirror and we feel a little bit better about ourselves. But we have to recognize that. We have to recognize it at any given moment. especially the moments where we are just hating ourselves because of this or that there's so many factors involved.
We have to, embrace ourselves with compassion and honor our humanity, which, comes with flaws, right? We're not perfect all the time. Our best is going to be different from day to day, minute to minute sometimes.
When
right?
you say honor ourselves, I hear don't take ourselves so seriously.
Right.
And in the most serious of moments is the right time not to take ourselves so serious.
Absolutely.
Right. Go ahead.
And we have our wonderful, beautiful human selves. We have this thing going on in our brains called the default mode network. Now, this is a fun little thing all of our brains do. The default mode network always goes to the negative, right? So, you're getting your annual job review, performance review at work, right? And they tell you 15 fantastic things about yourself. Oh my goodness, you're wonderful. You're on time. You're great with your coworkers. You're a snappy dresser. You're a good worker. And they say, but that one time you left your lunch in the refrigerator, not cool. That one comment is the one comment you're going to think about over and over and over again forever, and you're going to disqualify all the positive. So what the default mode network does is it kind of focuses on the negative and disqualifies all the positive.
Because the negative is exactly what will help keep us safe if we're aware of it and focused on it and working against it or towards it. And when that works its way into how we judge ourselves, well, that's just keeping us safe.
And the good news is that we can rewire our default mode network with awareness, name it. Oh my God, there I go again, focusing on the negative. That's claiming it. There I go again, and transcending it, and forcing ourselves to look at the positives, the things that aren't so terrible. Well, maybe I didn't get clean the entire house today, but I did get 4 out of 5 rooms vacuumed and mopped. Like really focusing on the good, and really start rewiring our brains so that becomes our default mode.
It is.
There's a Cooley quote
could you say it?
That we love, and it really sums up Judgment. Would you like me to say it?
I want to see if she can do it. This is this is a tough one.
We always mess this one up.
We'll say it twice because it takes.
I'm not who I think I am. I'm not who you think I am. I am who I think you think I am.
Wow. Perfect. So I'll do it again just for the clarity. I am not who I think I am. I am not who you think I am. I am who I think you think I am. And that quote, if you break it down and you look at it, that's us walking around judging others through the process of judging ourselves. I'm sorry, the other way around.
Judging ourselves through the eyes of other people. It's bizarre.
It is, but just the awareness of that quote, just acknowledging it and figuring it out and understanding it can give you a little bit of insight around judgment.
And again, if we remember that we're all human and we're all thinking everyone's judging us, right? We're all in that together. Nobody's actually judging us. They're worried about you judging them.
Yep, that's true. And it doesn't. First of all, it's great. Jesse, you have to send me that quote, because that is a very, very good quote, and it made a lot of sense when you guys said it, and it's all absolutely true. Because again, we are at times we're our own worst enemy. We are. And we hope when we talk to other people that we can build a relationship with these folks. And I don't mean like, you have to love the person forever or anything else like that. You just try to build a relationship with someone so they can understand exactly who you are and where you come from. Now, if you were in a relationship, and it's the funniest things when it comes to that stuff there, when you no longer are with a particular person, it's funny how instead of just being adults about it and just saying, hey, listen, things didn't work out, but let's see if anything, we can at least be friends at the end. You may not run into each other anymore because, one might move, to another town, another district, whatever you want to call it. And so you may not see each other. But if you do in the future, I'm like, hey, what's going on? We haven't caught up to you since, we broke up, whatever. And you can talk that way. But people become mortal enemies of each other. And then the super judgment comes in because oh, yeah, I don't want to talk to you because Liam, last time we were together, you were doing this, and you hated that and everything else. Look, and there's a reason why you guys aren't together anymore, for that simple reason, because you didn't find a way for simple solutions. We always talk about the word communications, but some people just don't know how to communicate, unfortunately, or in their method that they believe is completely right. Maybe so absurd for you is how do you get through with life just thinking that way? Well, because everyone thinks differently. So, judgment is used in so many different forms and fashion, everything else. That, this could be shows upon shows upon shows on that alone. But it spawns me off, though, to come next week, because there's another show directly behind this one here. But come next week, which I thought early on we talked about, there was a little word in there called parenting. And there was also mention of clothing. So I think when you take a look at what we've talked about between truth and lies and judgment, spills over to parenting, because as you guys were talking about before, how did we learn how to judge? It came from the parents. And seeing the way today's parents compared to our parents from back in the day and the clothing that are worn today, I think will make for a lovely subject come next week, because it is absolutely insane on certain things that happen today and how the different morals were from just even as short as 10 years ago.
Right.
I love it. I love deep diving into parenting and relationships and communication. And I think that's a great segue for next week. We dive into some parenting and what we learned from our parents who were doing the best they could with what they had. And, the parents today that are doing the same, but maybe different.
Yeah, a lot different, because sometimes you wonder, it's oh my God, what household did you come from? And again, it comes from judging, but it's
judgment, ding, ding. Again, name it, claim it, transcend it. And just to finish to everyone out there, we're all going to judge. There is no such thing as detoxing from judgment. It's normal. It's what you do with it.
Yeah, that's true. Great point there. So listen, guys, thank you so much for everyone who listened in. Thank you. And also you can always download this show wherever you get your favorite audio from. So whether it be an Amazon, Pandora, iHeart, you name it, download it so we can continue the success here of the show, because it means a lot when you download it. Do I make money from it? Of course not. We do this because we love it, but it helps out as far as with our ratings, because it makes a world of difference. So download the audio so you can listen to it on the road. If not, you'll be able to watch a replay on Facebook. I did, my fault tonight, not load up on YouTube. That's on me, because I had so many things that was going on in my head, but it will be up over the weekend.
We're not judging, no judgment.
And there you go. So I will have it up on YouTube in case you guys missed it, but again, you can catch it on Facebook as always. But listen, guys, thank you so much. We will do this again next Monday night at 8 o'clock, Lord willing, as long as these storms end up staying away. So until then, thank you so much. And also don't forget to let people know exactly where they can find you guys.
You can find us at Rain Dance Life, raindancelife.com. We're on Facebook, Rain Dance Life, Mind, Body, Spirit, Rain Dance Life Coaching. And definitely subscribe to this channel.
Absolutely.
Subscribe to our Monday night podcast. Subscribe to Broad Street. You can find us on all the other socials at Rain Dance Life, the Twitters and the Snaps and the Instas and all that good stuff. Yep, or send us an email. We'd love to chat with you.
That's true. Emails are always accepted. So yeah, by all means, please do that. And you can always visit at broadstsouth.com, and you guys can shoot an email that way as well. So, and it'll get directly to everyone. So let us know how we're doing. And if not, if you want to share your story, to let us know, man, you can be the next topic of the show. So by all means, make sure that you just give us a holler. Let us know. So until then, we hope everyone takes care of one another, that you love yourselves, and more importantly, that you love your family. So we will see you all come next week.
Good night.
Good night.
As soon as the outro comes in, there it is.